GVTV News.
Thanks, Frank, and I'm Randy Hansen. In today's World News headlines, protests spread across the Middle East over anti-Islam film. And Romney slams Obama's administration for embassy statement made before attacks. And U.S. Census shows economic inequality continues to widen. And judge permanently blocks indefinite detention provision in the NDAA. And House votes to extend warrantless wiretapping. And talks progress with Chicago teachers' strike enters the fourth day. Janitors stage solidarity action, and victims of Florida voter purge to see rights restored. And Obama and Netanyahu attempt to ease tensions over Iran. And more than 300 die in Pakistan factory fire. And protests over anti-Islam film continues to flare across the Middle East and North Africa. And California man and criminal past ID as key figure behind the anti-Islam film. And Libyan official says militants used anti-film protests as cover for attacks. GVTV News is broadcast in Grass Valley Television, a division of Rural Counties Television Network whose focus is on community involvement. We also air on NCTV. But before these stories, GVTV News would like to thank one of our underwriters who supports your only visual video news media in Nevada County. That's right, it's us, GVTV News. In today's first world news story, protests are spreading across the Middle East over the U.S.-made film considered blasphemous to Islam. Earlier the other day, hundreds of Yemeni demonstrators stormed the U.S. Embassy in Sana'a and smashing windows, burning cars, and before breaking through the compound's main gate. Protests also occurred in Egypt, Iraq, Iran, Tunisia, Bangladesh, as well as occupied Gaza Strip. In Cairo, at least 13 demonstrators were injured outside the U.S. Embassy. Police reported used tear gas to disperse the protesters after they threw stones and Molotov cocktails. Protests followed Tuesday night's storm of the U.S. consulate in the Libyan city of Benghazi that left U.S. Ambassador Christopher Stevens and 3 staffers dead. On Wednesday, President Obama vowed to bring justice to those responsible for killings and said he would not break the ties between the United States and Libya. He said, "We reject all efforts to denigrate the religious beliefs of others, but there is absolutely no justification for this type of senseless violence, none. The world must stand together to unequivocally reject these brutal acts. Already many Libyans have joined us in doing so, and this attack will not break the bonds between the United States and Libya." The Obama administration has dispatched an elite group of Marines to the Libyan capital Tripoli and sent U.S. warships towards the Libyan coast in a bid to ramp up security of U.S. personnel. The response to the deadly attack in Libya has entered the presidential campaign after Republican nominee Mitt Romney used this tragedy to attack President Obama hours before the protests erupted in Cairo and Benghazi. The U.S. Embassy in Cairo issued a statement attempting to diffuse anger over the anti-Muslim film in question, saying the embassy condemns the continued efforts of the misguided individuals to hurt the religious feelings of Muslims, as we condemn efforts to offend believers of all religions. That was before the Libya attack had taken place, but the statement released Tuesday night, Romney's campaign took aim at Obama and made it appear the embassy's comments had followed the attacks. Romney's campaign said, "It's disgraceful that Obama's administration's first response was not to condemn attacks on our diplomatic missions, but to sympathize with those who waged the attacks." Asked about his comments the following day, Romney stood firm. He said, "I also believe the administration was wrong to stand by his statements sympathizing with those who had breached our embassy in Egypt instead of condemning their actions. It's never too early for the United States government to condemn attacks on Americans and to defend our values. Simply put, having an embassy which has been breached and has protesters on its grounds having violated the sovereignty of the United States, having the embassy reiterate a statement effectively apologizing for the right of free speech is not the right course for any or an administration. I said any. In response to Romney, President Obama told CBS News and Republican challenger is prone to making rash comments. He said there's a broader lesson to be learned here, and I know Governor Romney seems to have a tendency to shoot first and aim later. And as president, one of the things I've learned is you can't do that. Nope. That, you know, it's important for you to make sure that statements that you make are backed up by facts and that you've thought through the ramifications before making them. He said that? Oh. And Steve Kraft said, do you think this is irresponsible? And President Obama replied, I'll let the American people judge that. I'm sure we will. New government data shows economic inequality continued to widen in the United States last year. Census Bureau reports the richest Americans increased their share of total wealth by 4.9%, while the median income reached its lowest level since 1995. Some 46.2 million Americans are classified as living in poverty. Census also shows the number of uninsured in the United States dropped the first time in 3 years, and 1.3 million people abstaining insurance. The federal judge has affirmed an earlier ruling blocking a controversial statute that gave the government power to indefinitely detain anyone who is considered a terrorism suspect anywhere in the world without charge or trial. Judge Catherine Forrest issued the preliminary injunction against the provisions of the National Defense Authorization Act, or the NDAA. Earlier this year, on Wednesday, Judge Forrest made her ruling permanent, declaring that the NDAA cannot be used to hold people in indefinite military detention on suspicion of having substantially supported al-Qaeda or its allies. Decisions marked a major victory for a group of journalists, scholars, and political activists who had brought the case, arguing the provision was so broad it could easily infringe on freedom of speech. And on Capitol Hill, the Republican-controlled House has voted to extend a statute allowing warrantless government surveillance with the FISA Amendments Act set to expire at the end of 2012. The House voted Wednesday to extend it for 5 years. Democratic Representative Gerald Nadler of New York criticized the measure. And he said, while it's certainly appropriate for our government to gather foreign intelligence, and while some degree of secrecy is obviously necessary, it's also vital in a free society that we limit government, protect the constitutional rights of America here and abroad, and limit warrantless spying to genuine foreign intelligence. Unfortunately, we have seen repeatedly how even the very minimal restraints Congress puts on FISA has been violated. We should address these abuses. Congress has an obligation to exert more control over spy agencies than simply to give them a blank check for another 5 years. Public school teachers in Chicago are continuing their historic strike for a 4th day. On Wednesday, thousands of teachers and supporters rallied outside three local schools, and these guys get more money than any other teachers in the country. But amidst the protest, union leaders and school officials appeared to be making some progress towards agreement that would end the strike. Chicago Teachers Union President Karen Lewis emerged from negotiations late Wednesday night, saying that she was very happy with the status of the talks over the key issues of the teachers' evaluations. Other issues on the table included recall process for teachers laid off due to school closings, consolidations, and turnarounds. Meanwhile, teachers in the nearby area Lake Forest launched a strike of their own Wednesday after failing to reach a deal over salaries and benefits. Also Wednesday, Tom Balanoff of the CEIU Local 1 announced Chicago janitors would stage a one-day solidarity strike with the Chicago teachers. He said many of our members have reached out and said they would like to honor the picket lines. We have 48-hour notice of our contract. Today we sent a 48-hour notice to our contractors saying on Friday that very well maybe Local 1 members, janitors, will stand outside and support the teachers instead of going to work. I mean, who wants to work anyway, right? The government can support us. In Florida, voters purged from the rolls after they were mistakenly labeled as non-citizens will have their voting rights restored in a November election. Earlier this year, Florida officials under Republican Governor Rick Scott created a list of supposed non-citizens who would be barred from voting unless they proved their citizenship within 30 days. At least 2 counties removed voters because they did not respond to certified letters and newspaper ads. On Wednesday, Florida announced that it would use a federal immigration database to identify 207 voters who are not citizens, compared to an initial claim of 2,600. The state also reached an agreement with voting rights groups that had challenged the purge, saying it's unfairly targeted Latinos. Under the settlement, Florida officials agreed to inform that more than 2,000 eligible voters mistakenly placed on a purge list that they were, in fact, eligible to vote. President Obama has reportedly held a one-hour telephone conversation with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in a bid to defuse tensions surrounding their differences over the military strike in Iran. Earlier this week, Netanyahu said the United States had no moral rights to tell Israel not to launch an attack and demanded Obama impose red lines. Washington State Department spokesperson Victoria Nuland refused to directly respond to Netanyahu's comments. She said, "I'm not going to comment today on our Prime Minister Netanyahu's statements, but as we said yesterday, we are in continuous consultation with the government of Israel, with our allies there, and what we are seeing in Iran on the path forward, and we will continue to do so, but we don't think it's particularly useful to have those conversations in public. It doesn't help the process, it doesn't help the integrity of the diplomacy." More than 300 people have died in a pair of factory fires in Pakistan while workers were trapped inside and unable to escape. The deadliest fires occurred in Karachi, where around 250 died at a garment factory. The garment factory lacked emergency exits and basic safety equipment, including alarms and sprinklers. It was one of the deadliest industrial accidents in Pakistan's history. And protesters generated by American-made film that mocks the Prophet Muhammad, I hope just by saying that I don't get attacked, but continue to flare for the fourth day across military East and North Africa. In Egypt, police in riot gear used tear gas against demonstrators, hurling rocks at the U.S. Embassy. Muslim Brotherhood canceled a million-man protest scheduled to follow Friday prayers. But protesters continued to gather, and some reportedly moved to burn an American flag, and the Yemen protesters breached a security wall and set fire to a building inside the U.S. Embassy compound Thursday. 4 protesters died while dozens of people were injured and security forces clashed with the demonstrators. Protests against the film have erupted multiple locations, including Bangladesh, Malaysia, Indonesia, Iraq, Iran, Jordan, Sudan, Tunisia, Israel, and the Gaza Strip. It's springtime, almost. U.S. authorities have officially identified the key figure behind the anti-Muslim or Islam film, Innocent of Muslims, that sparked the protest. Nicola Basile Nicola is a 55-year-old Southern California resident with a checkered past involving drug convictions and bank fraud. He was sentenced nearly 2 years in prison in 2010 for financial crimes and is barred from using the internet without approval from under the terms of his supervised release. He told Associated Press he was a Coptic Christian. Meanwhile, the actress who participated in the film said actors were deceived and did not realize it was anti-Islam. Instead, they were given a script entitled Desert Warriors that was purported to be about life in ancient Egypt, but words like Muhammad and other references in Islam were dubbed over their voices after the filming. New details have emerged under the attack of Libya that killed U.S. Ambassador Christopher Stevens, who came from Grass Valley, by the way. The 3 of his staff Tuesday. A senior Libyan official now says the militants may have used the protest against the anti-Islam film as a cover to attack the consulate. According to the officials, the attack on the embassy was the first part of a 2-pronged timed to coincide with September 11th. Militants later raided a safe house in a compound right outside the U.S. and Libyan security forces when they were trying to evacuate staff or something like that. And that's it for the World News today. And I would like to thank another one of our underwriters who supports your only visual video news media in Nevada County. That's right, it's us, GVTV News.
Soundcheck Music Center, the rock and roll connection. We have guitars, amps, drum equipment, sound accessories, lessons, and repairs. We are located at 671 Maltman Drive, Grass Valley. 530-272-7236, open 7 days a week.
No one needs anyone, they don't even just pretend. Jonah's an American. I'm afraid of Americans. I'm afraid of the world. I'm afraid I can't help it. I'm afraid I can't. I'm afraid of Americans. I'm afraid of the world. I'm afraid I can't.
That's right, it's time for the police blotter, and pictures in the blotter are not from these actual events, but used for visual aid only. These public records are obtained in daily logs issued from the Nevada County Law Enforcement, Grass Valley Police Department on Tuesday. 8:43 a.m., a report was taken from the 100 block of Iron Horse Place of a transient squatting in a backyard. No one was located. Extra patrols were requested. 8:45 a.m., a report was taken from 100 block of Mill Street of several locations that have been tagged. And 3:49 p.m. a report was taken from 100 block of West Main Street of a man shoplifting. No charges were desired. And 5:28 p.m. a report was taken from 300 block of North Star Place of a possible drug activity. And 6:46 p.m. a report was taken from 800 block of Sutton Way of Transit Camp. Nothing was located there. And 8:35 p.m. a man was reported to have been chased by a person who was gone when deputies arrived. At 9:06 p.m. a report was taken from Hughes and Ridge Roads of a motorcycle tailgating, flashing its brights and running a red light. 9:08 p.m. a report was taken from 200 block of Sutton Way of boys smoking marijuana. Who could not be located. Nevada County Sheriff's Office on Tuesday, 8:05 a.m. A man from the 12,000 block of Madrone Forest Drive reported a vicious dog in his yard. 8:21 a.m. a woman from 11,000 block of Torrey Pines Drive reported a person tried to take funds from her bank account. At 9:09 a.m. a woman from 10,000 block of Ricon Way reported her cat had been poisoned. 10:33 a.m. a woman from 13,000 block of Banner Lava Cap Road reported someone had been feeding pins to her dog. At 10:41 a.m. a report was taken from Gary Way and Brewer Road of a man standing in a dry field with a lighter in his hand. You can't have lighters in your hands, can you? 10:57 a.m. a woman from Quaker Crossroads reported someone put beer cans in her mailbox. 11:09 a.m. a woman from 13,000 block of Woodhaven Lane said someone's camping on her property. 12:07 p.m. a report was taken from 20,000 block of Poker Flats of theft of check for $88 which had been cashed. 12:21 p.m. a report was taken from 16,000 block of Champion Road of a residential burglary with a garage door forced open. And 1:29 p.m. a report was taken from Western Gateway Park of theft of a cell phone Sunday. 1:59 p.m. a report was taken from 10,000 block of Pleasant Valley Road reporting possible horse neglect. And 2:28 p.m. a woman from 11,000 block of Paradise Lane reported an ex-roommate threw trash at her house. And 2:49 p.m. a report was taken from Comrade Road of a juvenile stole a cell phone and was running on the highway. The juvenile was cited on suspicion of petty theft. 3:48 p.m. a report was taken from 12,000 block of Elm Court of a rabid bat. And 3:51 p.m. a report was taken from 14,000 block of Lightning Tree Road of fraud. And 6:52 p.m. a report was taken from Morning Sun Lane of hearing 2 gunshots. And 8:59 p.m. a report was taken from Tobacco Road of someone might be trying to steal an animal. Nothing was located there either. And that's it for the Police Blotter today. Now, another thanks to one of our underwriters who supports your only visual video news media in Nevada County. You guessed it, it's us, GVTV News. Christopher's Old World Deli and Catering Company has brought its delicious food and service downtown Grass Valley. Like desserts? They got 'em. You like international style lunches? They got 'em. Christopher's Deli and Catering for parties, get-togethers, weddings, or whatever. Open 7 days a week. In today's local news, Willie Nelson concert and Merle Haggard concert. Unidentified remains of a man found in the foothills. In a story written by me, well, we worked on an entry to this event for several months and it came down to a wire 2 days ago and they first accepted our request to cover this event, but then the Willie Nelson people decided not to allow news media access. At the time of the news airing, we didn't have access, but we would be given a try at the gate and see what happens, which we did. And it comes out that we might be showing you something. It's funny how when you live in a small town, big name artist shows up, sometimes they forget their roots. They don't remember the little people, but some are class acts and they know their fan base and who they are. And we shall see which side of the fence Willie Nelson and the family sits this weekend when, well, they sit pretty good for me. We had very exciting projects happening on videotaping over the weekend. Italian Festa 2012 at the Western Gateway Park, Penn Valley, Saturday and Sunday. We will be videoing this, and the Draft Horse Classic is coming up next week, 4 days, starting Thursday. I'll be working the main gate out there, so if you come in gate 1, you'll probably see me there. Say hi. 14 hours a day is long, but it's a good event. Admissions It's free to come to the fair. If you don't go to the draft horse inside you can get in there. Nevada County Sheriff's deputies are investigating the discovery of a man's remains in the Lowell Hill Road near Dutch Flat. The man's body was reported Thursday. Placer County Sheriff's deputies initially were called out to the scene, a remote and rugged area near the border of two counties. Nevada County Sheriff Keith Royal said, when they discovered the remains in the Nevada County, the investigation was turned over to the Nevada County Sheriff's Office. Only partial remains were located, said the Nevada County Coroner Paul Schmidt. Possibly due to animal depredation, he said the man might need to be positively identified through dental records or DNA. Placer County sheriffs responded to the scene in a remote area that is hard to reach, and they found that the land was in Nevada County, and that's when they turned it over. The remains of the man was found, and identity might require dental records. The partial remains seem to be disturbed by wild animals. Our Keith Rowe said the investigation is still underway, and we'll update you when we find out more information. Anyone who's missing a male in that area would be urged to contact the Nevada County Sheriff's Office. On a brighter note, the Italian Festa 2012 came off with a big bang this last weekend. This is one of the hottest venues to come out in our community in many years. The food, the friends, family, entertainment, ambience is just something you will want to come back to over and over again. And they're going to be doing it every year down there in Penn Valley at Western Gateway Park. The bocce ball tournament had become a favorite in Nevada County, and many people utilize this practice in Western Gateway Park bocce ball court even without this festival. And it was constructed last year. Frank Ritchie and Chris Gardner were outstanding as usual. This is fun for the whole family. If you like Italian food, then this is the place for you. And the vendors, there's so many things to do and look at down there, and some things to taste and offerings and all sorts of good stuff. So you should check it out. Many of the people who come to this event mark it on their calendar for each year in September, and we will be having DVDs for them you can get from them, and we'll put some footage out there on NCTV. And here's some footage from Willie Nelson, Merle Haggard, Peggy Young, Ramblin' Jack Elliott, and causes and vendors in this packed weekend at the fairgrounds.
Trying to get some coverage for John Trudell.
Tribal chairman of this area.
Asasaka. I want to welcome Willie for the community and the Chayaka Mighty tribe. I'd like to give Willie a little something from the tribe so he can remember us.
Still moving to me. Still moving to me. Still moving to me. Grandpappy told my pappy back in my day, son, a man had to answer for the wicked he done. Take all the rope and Texas from a tall oak tree. Round up all them bad boys at the high street. We got Too many gangsters doing dirty deeds. Too much corruption and crime on the streets. The law of the law put a few in the ground. Help me make it through the night. You can leave me a tip if you can, cause I'm a shoe shine man. I can sing, I can dance, I can play the harmonica too. I got a brand new thing called Southside Montgomery Blues.
Hope you like it. I like it. It's called 912. It's called, what the hell? I'll just sing it. Ain't no use to sit and wonder why, babe. If you don't know by now. And it ain't no use to sit and wonder why, babe. It'll never do somehow. When your rooster crows at the break of dawn, look out your window and I'll be gone. You're the reason I'm a-traveling on. But don't think twice, it's all right.
I like this. There's more of a groove to it.
Someone said I never gave it down. Honey, the damn sure told you why. That random fever all along. Random fever. The kind that can't be measured by degree. Random fever. Ain't no kind of cure but I see. I should have known the worst was yet to come.